Hello everyone and welcome back to this web development course. We are on day 5 and today we're going to continue to build our website. Last time we learned about styles in CSS and start to implement them into our website. Today we're going to finish making our navigation bar and maybe adding a little bit more to it. So let's get started. Go ahead and open up Visual Studio, and we're going to be using our index and style files today, so go ahead and open that up. So I already have them open right here, so if you don't have them open right now, go ahead and open those up. I'm going to go ahead and full screen this, and let's also open up our website by going to our folder. And hitting index, and we can just have our website here. So last time what we did is we just formatted our navigation bar, and today what we are going to do is make our home and about buttons right here look more like these right here. So we're gonna add those animations and just clean it up. Okay, so to start off, we're gonna be adding some styles to do this because we can't really do any of this stuff in HTML. So let's go ahead and go to styles. The first style we're going to be adding is to our navlink wrapper, which is this one right here. So we'll only apply these styles to the index and about hyperlinks, which is what we want, because the only things we want to change right now is our index and about pages, or our links, sorry. Alright, so let's type in dot navlink wrapper and use those curly brackets. So first we want to do is we want to change the height of this a little bit. You don't have to do this, but it'll just make the final website look a little bit better. So we're just gonna say height, and let's do 22 pixels. If you're making your own website sometime, you're gonna have to experiment around with this a little bit, but I've made this website before, so I know the exact measurements. So that's what we're using right now. But if you're ever in the future making your own website, make sure you experiment around with your sizes a little bit. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and try to get rid of this ugly little line down here. So to do that, we're gonna say border bottom, and we're gonna say it's 1 pixel big, and we're gonna make it solid and transparent. And then we'll also make a transition here. So if we go back to our final website, we see that if we hover over this, there's a kind of a transition, so it fades in the bottom line and then it fades out when you get off of it. So we're kind of creating the base for that right now. So let's say transition, and we're gonna call this border bottom, and we're gonna say 0.5 seconds. Okay, now we're gonna do another style, and it's gonna be the same one, but we only want to apply this style to the A links. So I'll show you guys what the A links mean in a second. So if we go over here, we see that inside of our div classes of the navlink wrappers, we have these A references. So it's basically just another way of doing our tree. We're just referencing these A things over here, so we're referencing the same thing. Okay, so in here we're gonna go ahead and change the color of our text. Let's say the color is, let's call it light gray. And then, so this is where we really get rid of the bottom line that we have. So we're gonna say text decoration, and we'll call that none. So we no longer have that line. And then we're gonna add another transition here, which is gonna say 0.5 seconds. And we're gonna add color in there too, because we want the color to darken as well. Because if we go over here, we see that when there's nothing hovering over these two links, it's just gray, but when we go ahead and hover over, it turns black. So that's what we're doing too. So let's go ahead and save that, and let's see how this looks right now. So you see that we don't have these animations yet because we have to implement a hover function. So it'll say that when we hover, we're gonna have to change the color. But right now you see our colors have changed, and that ugly line we had at the bottom is gone. Okay, so now let's create the hover class I was talking about. So let's go ahead and create another style class, and we'll call this navlink wrapper as well, because we're only working in that div class from index right now. And then here we're gonna say colon, and then we're gonna call this hover. So this is basically saying that when we hover over the text, we want this to do this. So this code inside of this class is only going to take place when our mouse is hovering over that text. And here we're going to add a border bottom, because if we go to our final website, we see that there is a border over here, but it's a little bit better and it's better looking. So we're going to say border bottom, we're going to do 1 pixel, it's going to be 1 pixel big, and it's going to be solid black. Okay, so that is all we need for our hover. And then here we're going to make another hover class, which is going to say which is going to dictate the color. So we're going to have hover. So this is the same thing, a hover. This is the same thing we did right here. We're just referencing the a class inside of the navlink wrapper class, kind of like the trees we did last time. So let's go ahead and say color, and set that to black, because we want to change the text color to black as well. So we go ahead and save all of this, and we go back and refresh. You see that when we hover over this, we now have our transitions. So that's pretty cool, and it only took 4 classes of shortcode, so that's pretty cool. And you see there are some differences here, like the text is different and the border on the bottom is a little bit thicker, but that's just preference. If you want the border to be a little thicker, you can increase the pixel size. Like if I go ahead and say if I just want like 3 pixels and go ahead and save that, it's gonna be a lot thicker right here, you see. And I actually like it kind of thicker, but 3 pixels is a little too thick, so I'm just gonna go ahead and change it to like, let's say 2 pixels. And let's go ahead and check that out, and that looks pretty good. And the font is a little bit different because the font over here is a custom font we imported, and we'll do that at the end. And if you see that if we hover over here, our color changes, so we're gonna do that as well right now. This is not a link, it's not anything important, but it's just kind of a cool feature to have, and it doesn't take that long since we already learned how to do this here. So if you go to our index, we can look at our right side, and we have our name in it, and we have the div right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say dot name, and we're gonna say that we want to have a color of light, and we also have to, sorry, I'm messing up here, but we also have to say div right here, like we did over here. We said a because we had our a references, a classes inside of our div, so we have to do the same thing over here. We're gonna say div. So let's say name div, and then we'll set the color to black here. It's already default set at black. Let's just save it to do this way, and we're actually defining it, so if you ever want to change it in the future, it's a lot easier to do. And then let's do what we did right here, so the hover part. So let's say dot name, and let's say when it hovers, we want to change the color to light gray. Let's go ahead and save that, and then we're gonna say, yeah, let's go ahead and check how that works. So go over here, and it's not working right now because we do not have this part, the a reference. In this case, it's gonna be a div reference. So let's say dot name div hover, and we'll change this back to the color. Sorry, I messed up right there. So the color light gray. Let's go ahead and save that, and let's check this out. So you see that now when we hover over this, it changes to light gray, and when we hover back off it, it's normal. So it's the same thing we have over here. When we hover over it, it changes to light gray, and when we go back, it changes black to black. And we really don't need this hover class over here. That was my mistake, so we can just go ahead and delete that, and let's go ahead and check that out. So it still works. And we did need this black color black name div class over here, because that way the program knows to return back to the color black when we're not hovering on it. So that's pretty cool. And now we're going to be adding some more basic styles we need to set up for our portfolio, or our 9x9 grid we have right here. We're going to be working on this in the next class, but let's go ahead and set up for it today. So let's go ahead and we're gonna add our main styles up here. We should have done this in the beginning, but I forgot about it. So let's go ahead and do that. So you see that we have our body class and our container class. They don't have any styles right now, but we're gonna go ahead and add some right now. So let's say dot body, and let's add a margin here. So what this is basically doing is just margin. It's making sure that all of our pieces in our 9x9 grid are gonna fit together tight. If you go back here and Control R and refresh it, we're not gonna see any difference because it's just basically telling the computer that when we want to add like images over here or whatever we're gonna add, we want it to fit snug against the screen, just like we have in our actual website. So let's go back and we're gonna be adding one more style today, and that's gonna be to our container class. So this is the container class which contains all of our code. So right here, the container class. And here we're gonna be doing something similar to Flexbox, but it's not really that similar. So we're gonna say display again. So like how we did in Flexbox, we said display flex, but this time we're gonna say display grid. And we're using a grid because if you go ahead and go here, you can see that it's a 9x9 grid. So we're using the format grid. It'll just make programming a lot easier and our layout a lot better. So we're gonna say display grid, and we're also going to use grid template columns, and we'll say 1FR. So this is another unit of measurement. So what this is saying is to create columns. So we're gonna have one column here, and we can determine that whenever we want. So that is all I have for you guys today. It was a short lesson today because we were just finishing up our navigation bar. We're gonna be adding more stuff to this next lesson, and I know this ending part seemed a little bit confused, like this display grid, but we're going to be going ahead and adding to that next lesson where we actually start to work on this part of our website. So that's good. If we look at our to-do list here, I'll just go ahead and pull up our to-do list real quick. We can see that we are done with our navigation bar, so we are 1/3 done with our website. So that's pretty cool. So we can go ahead and just say, we can just cross off this because we are done. We have 2 links right here. We have our 2 links. We have a name right here. And yeah, so our navigation bar is done. Next time we're going to be working on our picture grid, which is going to have images, text, and animations. And in our last part, we're going to be working on our about page, which is pretty simple. So next class, we're really going to get into the bulk of this course because our bulk of the course is focusing on this picture grid because it's a little bit complicated. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have a great day. Remember, you can always contact me at mehulcm17@gmail.com. Yeah, that's it. Bye.